Hello and welcome to the Trophy Trust, a weekly podcast for PlayStation Trophy Hunters. I'm one of your hosts, the Azil, and joining me this evening we have Sora.
What's up, guys? Hello.
And we have the Vectronic.
Hello.
Good evening, gentlemen. It is another week of gaming over. Well, not quite over, so to speak, but behind us. And, well, for me, it is Comic-Con weekend. I've been at Comic-Con, London Comic-Con, that is, during earlier today and all weekend. So I've been well and truly immersed in gaming and geek culture. And Beck, you were recently at Comic-Con as well, weren't you? Was it last week?
Yeah, it was last week. I was only on Friday and Sunday. I couldn't be on Saturday, but I enjoyed it either way. And it was very fun, actually, looking at the cosplays and everything.
It's a nice atmosphere, isn't it? It's good when people who all enjoy the same thing kind of come together to appreciate the thing that they enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. And you can all see like all of those merchandise that your wallet can afford, and you have to withstand. And you have to withstand like the might of not spending everything at once. And that's like the bane of everyone who goes like their first day. They immediately just spend it all without thinking.
I always feel so jealous of people who go to Comic-Con and everything because I've never been to a Comic-Con. I've never been.
Shut your
mouth. Everyone just posts pictures of all the fun they're having, and I see them on Twitter and everything. I'm like, God, I need to go,
dude.
But it's just like it's never in my brain at the time to just like go.
Dude, there's no Comic-Con in your area?
I live in like the U.S. down in Texas and everything, and San Antonio and the Austin area have Comic-Cons every so often, but it's just like where I live, I don't live close to either one of those areas, so it's kind of a ride to get there.
A geographical issue.
Yeah, there's a geographical issue with Texas.
Texas is big, everyone.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I said, it's a nice atmosphere, and it's good to see people who also appreciate video games, especially when you see people cosplaying as like quite like characters. Like I saw today, and actually previously before in a Comic-Con last year, someone, for example, dressed up as the main character from the Dino Crisis games. What was her name? Regina, I think it is. Yeah, Regina from the Dino Crisis.
Yeah,
and like that's such an obscure like video game like nowadays, like because Dino Crisis isn't around anymore. But someone dressing up as the main character, cosplaying as the main character, that's quite wonderful. You know that there's people there such as me who would recognise that reference, and that's what's really cool about Comic-Con. There's always I'm not really a fan of anime, so I don't get the anime cosplays at all. They're all really impressive, but I can't really appreciate them because I don't really watch anime. But the obscure video game ones and today I saw, for example, a guy dressed up as really good Virgil from Devil May Cry 3. He had the coat and the sort of the sword and the hair.
I love Virgil's Devil May Cry 3 design. That's my favorite one.
Even had even down to the waistcoat, that kind of like ribbed waistcoat that he wears. Like fantastic. Just the detail was amazing. Like
the amount of effort that these cosplayers put into their costumes is extraordinary.
Absolutely.
If I have to recognize some of the cosplays I've seen in Comic-Con this year, there was this McCree that was head to toe like actually McCree. Like even he had the beard and everything, and it was like you've seen this. It's like, wow, this is actually McCree. Like I'm gonna upload like a picture. It's like that's McCree. That's McCree. You can't tell me otherwise. And even had the robot arm and everything hidden in his like poncho. And it's amazing how the level of detail that it goes to. And even still, I think I saw like what was it? I saw another more obscure references. There was, I'm not sure if you guys remember this movie, 9. That was like animated.
Yeah, they were like little sack people, weren't they?
Yeah. I also found them in the Comic-Con, and I was like, what? That's amazing! Look at it. It's like so cute and everything. You had this
some people do dress as some crazy obscure, like references or costumes or characters. But when you posted originally on Twitter that picture of that character from Overwatch, I thought it was the Stranger from Stranger's Wrath because I don't play Overwatch. Because the Stranger has like that hat and that poncho. I know it's Overwatch now. Like, it took a few minutes to click what I was looking at because, like I said, I don't play Overwatch, so I don't have the characters fresh in the front of my mind. But then obviously I thought, now I see it's not obviously Stranger from Stranger's Wrath. But yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
That's awesome, Daz. My God.
Wow. I mean, it flows over your head, but I understand. It's like, I know the confusion, but wow, that's a very obscure game, actually.
If someone did actually dress as Stranger, that would have been like bonus points for even more of an obscure cosplay, you know, because loads of people cosplay as like Overwatch characters. You see them all around, and they're all fantastic. But you know, bonus points for someone being an Oddworld character. You know.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's push on, shall we? Let's have a talk about the old video game, shall we? And what we've been playing. So I tell you what, Sora, why don't you lead the way first and tell us what you've been up to?
Awesome. So just recently, probably as of 15 hours ago, Dark Souls Remastered released. For me anyway, and I have been going ham on that game. Just got through Gaping Dragon and everything. Very tough boss, but I've been doing it with my friend because he's very much he's like Claire in our server, where he's very dedicated to the Soul series and everything.
Okay.
And so I've been doing a co-op playthrough with him, and it's just been great. It's a nostalgic rush actually, because I haven't played Dark Souls since it came out in 2011. So having it brought to the PS4 with upgraded resolutions and everything, it's a nice change. Cool. It's a nice change. But other than that, I've been playing Witcher 3. I decided to delve into that, and I don't know why, because the game is so massive. I feel like I put in 8 hours and I don't get anything done.
That's like a time sink right there. It's like
if you want to fully complete everything in that game, it's like 300 plus hours.
You know, you said like Claire was the most dedicated Dark Souls player. The dude platted Witcher 3 times. I don't know how. It's like, so I don't know
That's
how.
Like signing your suicide note right there. If you decide you want to platinum Witcher 3 times, you gotta be fucking insane for that.
I suppose after the first and mainly after the second time, I guess you become so, you know what you're doing, you become efficient at it. You know where to go to get particular trophies, like combat ones, and maybe the fastest routes here. So if you enjoy a game enough and you know the back of it, it's like, for example, just a real quick tangent, like. As a kid, I played a lot of Metal Gear Solid 1, so I could almost speed run it. You know, you can almost play it like metaphorically speaking with your eyes closed. You know, so maybe you play a game that you really enjoy, it sinks in, it stays there, and because if it's not a chore, with a chore you generally don't really try and remember a game that was a real chore, but in detail. And sometimes it's hard to think what back to it. But if you have a game you really enjoyed and played many times, you can usually go back in your mind and pinpoint certain moments that are like really awesome. And that's what it was like for Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 as well, and 3, like growing up playing them. I enjoyed them so much that I would almost like relish at the moments I enjoyed the most and get through the game quite efficiently. Like I used to be able to get through Metal Gear Solid 2 in like I'd started Saturday morning when I no school on Saturday, obviously. Started Saturday morning and finish it by Saturday evening, and
damn,
I enjoyed it because I could get through it efficiently because I played it so much and also knew the fastest ways to do stuff. So it's probably the same. I mean, not on a Metal Gear Solid 2 is quite a linear game, and like things like The Witcher are huge open worlds.
The only thing I have about The Witcher is just like the story itself is like 40 hours long, so having to do that 3 plus times, it's like God Almighty. But I understand how people, if you really like a game and everything, the in and outs and the intricacies of everything, so the best route to take. So I understand that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, awesome. All right then, so that's pretty much what you've been up to, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Just Witcher 3 and Dark Souls Remastered.
Oh man, what 2 hardcore games back to back? I don't think I could do that.
I'm putting myself through torture. I'm signing the note right now. Signing the suicide note.
Alrighty then. So, Vec, what about you?
Okay, so last I left with Lego Batman 3, so I'm gonna say that right now I have platinum the game itself.
Woo. Good job.
Oh my god, I love and adore this game so much, but at the same time, like 100%ing is not an easy task because it's just grindy at this point. It wasn't hard actually. I just needed to like take like 4 hours to like clean up like the planets and stuff, and it's just like at first it's like the first planet is okay. You just tour around the planet, beat some bad guys up, and do some mini games. But at the same time, when you do it like more, like 6 more times, it's like it gets tedious at one point. And the driving sections that you have to do they're not much, but you have to do some driving sections around Oa in like the Green Lantern planet, and it's just I don't like the driving controls in that, but I like the flying controls in that game. And once I got like the 100% done, I just had to like flip a switch, and then I had to transform into Adam West, and I got the platinum. So
the driving controls in those Lego games, I don't think the driving controls have improved since like the Lego games back on PC in like the 90s. Like obviously you are driving like a plastic block. Like yeah, that's fine. I get that. That's how a block would drive, wouldn't it? You know, it's not a car. But in a video game, you'd like a little bit more comfort with the controls, a little bit smoother, and it's always really hard to turn. And like when you do races or time trials or driving through those bloody rings, like in those games, it's just really annoying. And
they don't.
But just on the note of the Green Lantern planets, obviously it's been a while since I played this game, but there was one I had trouble with as well as. It was one of them planets where it's like Mario Odyssey. Mario Galaxy.
Yeah.
Where you see the whole planet and you sort of gravitate around it, like it's smaller than a huge planet, and the camera sort of pans around the sort of atmosphere. There was one where you have to find particular things on. It was like a pink planet, I think, or
Zamaron. You had to find like chickens.
That was it. And you don't really get any markers or anything, do you? You have to just keep flying around until you
find
just
them.
by luck. Yeah, that was awful. What awful gameplay!
I noticed the one thing, they can't be on the ground, so you have to fly around and you have to look in like the tippity top of the corners. Otherwise, you can't find them on the ground. That's how I found them, and I found them fairly quickly. But I understand if you can't pick that up like the first time, you're basically like scouring around the planet trying to find out. And since there's no way to track down which places you've been, it's basically impossible to like say, oh, this is the one I'm missing, or this is the one I'm not looking for. Like there's no markers or anything.
Like I've said on before when we discussed this previously, all those Green Lantern planets just feel like just pointless filler to that game, just to pack it out. And it's not fun. The main story and doing the free roam modes or whatever modes where you can swap characters in and out to get the collectibles. Fair enough, standard Lego game structure. But all them Green Lantern planets are just they were actually a chore, and I didn't enjoy that. Like by the end of it, by getting 100% of the platinum, I was glad to be done with it.
Exactly.
And I'm sure you felt the same.
I like adding on to Daz's comment about the driving and everything. It's like, yeah, I know you want to give me the feeling that I'm like an actual Lego person driving a Lego brick, but can you not? Can you just give me like better controls? Thank you.
Exactly.
That's what I've always thought. Every Lego game that has driving, I'm like, it does feel like you're driving a plastic brick.
At least,
but I don't want it to. That's the thing.
I will give them something. The flying controls have certainly improved over the years.
Slightly.
Yeah. No, they mapped it to the right thumbstick instead of actually putting it like all into like, oh, you have to hold it and press like the X and point at the direction you have to move. It's like, no, that's not how you're supposed to do it. So.
I remember the flying controls in Lego Marvel Heroes, the sort of the one that came out a few years ago, where it was like sort of Avengers and X-Men all combined and set in New York. Mm-hmm. And the flying controls are awful. It was like X. It was like X to fly higher and circle to fly lower. And trying to navigate through rings around like the helicarrier in the sky as Iron Man was just It was horrendous. It just took me ages to do. It was such a simple. Yeah, so rather than control your altitude with like the analog stick, you just have to like press up and down. Is generally the way I can describe it. Yeah, definitely like X2 up, circles down, and then use the other analog stick to basically control your pitch.
No, shut
It was bad.
Shut up. It's
just like, I just need a simplistic flying control scheme. I don't need all this like X to go up, circle to go down, and then I need the right analog stick to control my pitch. It's like I'm not a fucking flight navigator. I don't need to understand that.
Hello.
Just give me like, hey, I can move my body around.
Jesus.
With the left analog stick.
It's like the same amount of requirements, the persistence that you have to do when flying an actual plane. Like, it's ridiculous. But besides that, since I platinumed that, I moved on to some other games. So I've also platinumed Hadin Time. So that was a quick knockoff. Like, I needed just to get some actual timepieces and then beat the game. And do one miscellaneous trophy, which I'll talk to later. But I will say, I love Hadin Time. I recommend it. The ending made me cry. I did not expect that game to actually make me cry, but it did, and it was emotionally great. So, if I have to describe Hadin Time, it's a very joyful, colorful platformer that I really suggest that if you want to play like this unique platformer, do it, because it is worth the price tag, and you'll actually like chapter 2 of the entire game. Like, just trust me on this one. You'll like it.
Okay.
No, that was the game that was kickstarted, right?
Yeah, that was a
big Kickstarter background and everything.
Yep. And they gave.
It finally came out.
And they promised and delivered every single backing in that game completely. Even the voice casting, even the what was it called, the rewards, they were all worth it. So I wish I would have backed that game when it came out, but I didn't know about it until like someone mentioned it to me, and that's how I learned about Hadin Time, and I was so hyped about it. So
it's good that a Kickstarter campaign actually followed through on something.
Yeah.
Like other Kickstarter campaigns.
Yeah. But now that I platinumed that one, I also moved on from there to Jak 2 on PS4. And yeah, and
starting in the middle of the series?
No, because I beat the first one again on PS4 not too long ago. A few episodes back. Okay. So I'm continuing off to Jak 2 on PS4 because I was like feeling nostalgic and stuff. So okay, I'll start it off. I started last night, and it only took me like an hour or so to make it to like the halfway point of the first act. And if you see like the Twitter, I've been like posting like the clips and stuff, like, wow, I've really improved, because I remember playing this game on PS2 originally and getting like the worst how should I say this? The worst of times, because I wasn't that skilled enough when I was younger, and it was like one of my first teen games, so I was like, it was hard as hell, so I didn't know what was I doing and stuff. And it ties back what we talked about earlier about when you play something later on, like in the second playthrough or the third playthrough, it like sticks to you, some things that stand out. And in this instance, there was a technique that you can easily use to defeat enemies. You just punch and jump. So basically, you just uppercut in the air. So it would just damage the enemy twice, because the hitboxes in that game are fairly wonky, and you just notice it at points that when you're actually like finishing a kick in the air, at the end the hitbox stays up until like you hit the floor and both of your feet are in the floor, so you can hit enemies midair, and then while you're going down, it hits again the enemies down below. It's like, wow. It's like, that's how great that game is. Like, I love Jak 2, but I do not recommend playing it on PS4 because of the simple fact that it's very like tedious. If, for example, at points there's like lag spikes that are not supposed to be there, texture popping in one of the areas, especially in the underground sections where you can see like the textures, like that texture is not supposed to be there, or some characters have like sometimes their fingers just magically disappear for no reason. So it's weird. Honestly, it is weird. So
Okay.
yeah, right now I'm like halfway through the first act of the game, so far so good. So
All right. Okie dokie. So I guess that leaves me then, right?
exactly.
Okay. Well, firstly, I'll just get the quickest one out of the way. I gave Explosion another go on PS4. Remember, I said that I had a hard time with it on PS Vita because of like lag, input delay, and just the controls of the Vita made it harder than it needs to be. The PS4 one, I managed to actually just get through really quickly because it's much better. It runs a lot smoother. The DualShock 4 analog sticks are obviously superior to the Vita analog sticks. You've got more wider radius of like motion on them. The game runs fine, and I managed to actually platinum that game in just over 15 minutes. It's actually my fastest platinum to date at 15 minutes. So yeah, it's cross-buy, so I didn't buy it again. It's just part of the package. I also then tried Faye. If you've not seen it, it's like a 3D platformer. It's got quite a unique looking, almost I don't know, kind of like almost kind of polygonal, and everything's kind of purpley and very kind of very dark. You play as a kind of, the best way I can really describe it is you play as a little kind of box-like character. Everything is set in some kind of other reality. Everything is it's not Earth or anything like it, and all creatures are kind of alien in it. And you just have to save the forest from this kind of impending evil force that's basically capturing all the animals and changing them into like more of these kind of enemies. I think they're called the Silence or something like that. And it's a cool little game. I got it on sale. You roam around, traverse the environment. You learn different languages to communicate with other animal species in the game. You use the analog sticks. You can use the analog stick, or you can set it to the rear trigger like I did, and depending on how hard you press is how loud you can speak or roar or shout or however you want to describe it. And often you have to like match the frequencies of the other animals speaking to you. So it's like looking at a the name escapes you at the moment. But do you know when you have like a visualization of like sound? You've got like the green kind of like bar that, you know, like warbles up and down.
Oh, like a sound bar.
Yeah, I can't really the word to describe it. It's got a particular name, but basically you have to just sort of like match the frequency of the animals speaking to you, and then you communicate with them, and they can unlock abilities for you, or they can help you out in a situation. The game's okay. I didn't really enjoy it that much, to be honest, because of a few things. The environments are really confusing. During the story, you can at any time hold down, I can't remember what it is, but hold down a button, hold down roar, that's it. You speak loud for a few seconds, and you can summon a bird, and it basically leads you where you need to go next. Because the environments, for me personally, I found very confusing. There's a lot of ups and downs and different ways to go. You have a map, but the map only shows you the basic outline of the game world. It doesn't show you like how to get to certain places, so maybe you have to go up, or there's a tunnel underneath. These things aren't shown on the map, and I just found it really frustrating to try and get to where I needed to go, so I had to use the bird a lot to guide me. But once the story's over, you don't get the bird. So trying to mop up collectibles in this game is like the worst part of the game. I spent like about 3-4 hours, a few hours more than I needed to, at least, finding all the collectibles to get the platinum for it. The game is slightly glitchy in regards to the counters that keep track of what the collectibles you've picked up and what you haven't. Some of the videos and some of the forum posts I've seen, and I've even experienced it myself firsthand, the game will register a collectible was picked up, even though you haven't got it. So then you're frantically looking around for a collectible in another region. Like, there's different regions on the map. You get all the collectibles in one region and on to the next. That's basically how I did it, the most efficient way of doing it. And so I collected all, at the time I didn't realise, and then I went into the map and it said like region was like, you've got 14 out of 13 in one region, and then the region next to that particular region, I couldn't find the final collectible. But what had happened is the game had glitched and kind of counted a one that I picked up when I actually didn't. So yeah, I didn't realise this at the time, and I wasted 2 hours trying to find a collectible that I had picked up in a different region that had jumped over to another region.
Oh.
And it was just really... I've restarted the game and it fixed it, but yeah, that's like 2 hours of my life wasted, and it just pissed me right off. But I got it in the end. I backtracked all the way. I basically recovered all the ground I already covered again, and found the one I needed. But yeah, the collectibles are pointless in that game. What really put salt in the wound, what added insult to injury, is when you get all the collectibles, you unlock a final ability, and this isn't a spoiler, you unlock the ability to fly. In the game, you can glide anyway, jump off a high ledge and hold jump. Just like any game, you can glide for as long as you can to eventually, hit the ground. The final ability that you unlock is the ability to fully fly, like jump from a ledge and then basically just thrust, so you can thrust forward and continue flying as long as you want. And this is baffling, because if I had that ability, that's the ability you get, that's the reward for collecting all the collectibles in the game. If I had that ability, collecting all the collectibles in the game would have been far, far, far easier. So I don't understand why they give you that as the final reward, because by the time you get it, you've done everything in the game, and that's it. It's over. The last thing you'll do in the game is get all the collectibles. So giving you a reward that you're not really going to use is pointless. I thought after collecting maybe half the collectibles, or I don't know, finishing the story would have given you the ability to fly, not getting all the pointless collectibles that don't do anything and then reward you with a redundant ability at the very end of the game when you're not going to go back and play it again. So that annoyed me as well. So wasted time.
Hey, thanks for doing all this stuff. Have a thing that you may not ever use.
It would have made collecting the collectibles so much easier if I could fly, because gliding only gets you so far. You have to find ways up of climbing in this really confusing environment. It's just whatever.
It reminds me of Dead Space. One of the games of Dead Space includes one of the best guns in the game, even after you've done everything. So it's basically pointless to use it unless you want to go back again and beat it on faster, like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, what's the point of having something so ungodly OP right after I beat the entire game?
Yeah, once you've done everything. But I can kind of understand that. I don't know. It's just, yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I can actually recommend Fate. It's a nice game, but if you're going to platinum it, it is a hell of a grind. I'm not talking about it's some 40, 50-hour game. I can't remember how long it took me. It was like a good couple of hour sessions during the space of a week. But yeah, just finding the collectibles is a real grind towards the end, because you do get an ability which does help you find the collectibles. It's similar to Infamous. Was it in Infamous where you could see the blast shards?
No, in Infamous.
No, in Infamous 1 you couldn't.
No,
or you could, but it was a small radius.
No, it was around the map area. If you the mini map, if you ping, it makes a ping like a sonar ping, and it checks around if there's the icons, and it shows blue dots right there. All except in
not like Infamous then. Okay, you can see the collectibles through the walls, detective mode from Batman or whatever. Okay. But you can't really see how far away they are. You can just sort of see they're in that direction. It doesn't show you how to get to them, and it does kind of help. But you can see them through every wall through a certain distance. So you got to figure out how to get past the wall and find the path to them, and that was slightly helpful. But giving me the ability to fly at the end of the game was a bit silly. Anyway, enough talk about Fate. All else I'm playing is Mafia 3 at the moment. Picked up in a sale ages ago for really, really, really cheap. I think under a tenner, I think it was. I haven't played it before, obviously. I was initially interested at launch back when it came out because I really enjoyed Mafia 2 back on PS3. I thought the game was awesome. I got excited for it, but then I just didn't really get round to it. Plus, it had a whole myriad of problems when it launched. It was like pretty broken in a lot of ways. So enemy AI bad, a lot of like visual and technical issues. So I kind of just forgot about it. It's had and the trophies. I think trophies are really badly glitched in it as well, which is always a turn off for me anyway. But I did some research, and it turns out it's had like patch after patch after. It's like had like 10 or 11 patches since, and it seems to work fine now. There's a few visual glitches every now and then, a few weird lighting. I don't know. The lighting goes weird sometimes when you're driving, and the other day I was driving and my tires disappeared. That was a strange one, but it runs fine. The trophies seem to be popping when they're popping, and I'm enjoying it. I'm not really too far into it. Maybe about 8 to 10 hours around that mark if I'm ballparking it. I'm liking it. It's good. It's fine. I like how you can take over districts. You take over crime rackets in the area, and you can choose to like incorporate them into your own like crime syndicate and allocate it to different bosses that are underneath you, ranks below you, and all that. It's pretty cool. It kind of reminds me of a little bit like Saints Row the Third, where you could like capture districts by capturing businesses around the map and eventually turning the map all into all owned by the Saints. Obviously, it's more serious here. It's not like goofy like Saints Row, but I did like that mechanic of like slowly taking over the city through its businesses. In this instance, it's through crime, like organized crime, which is pretty cool. It's just standard kind of like third-person sandbox kind of thing: driving, shooting, cover. The stealth's pretty cool when you have to take out like a crime racket, for example. You can go in and find the head of the racket, and you can either kill them or recruit them. But getting to them really reminds me of Hitman, the Hitman games, where you use stealth and like you have to kind of plan. It's not a stealth game in the slightest, but the way environments indoors and getting to the boss at the end of the level just really reminds me of Hitman. Just the way you can be really sly with it, and he has the main character Lincoln. He has a knife, and it just the way he does these like brutal executions. Just really reminds me of Hitman, and that's what I really like about it. It's got a cool kind of Hitman vibe to it. But yeah, that's about as much as I'm going to say for the time being. The only downside is for the platinum, you have to play it through twice, so that's about 60 hours. So yeah, I'm not really looking forward to the second playthrough because the only differences between the first and the second playthrough is the first playthrough basically you have to not kill anyone, like in terms of like mob bosses and stuff. And then in the second playthrough, you do kill everyone. So it's just like that's basically the difference. So 2 different endings or multiple endings.
So you have like a pacifist run and then a straight up murder run.
I wouldn't call it pacifist because you do kill a lot of people in this game. It's just whether you recruit the people or you just kill them and take their business. Like you can incorporate them into it, and it makes you more. It makes you more money in the long run if you like threaten a person's life and make them work for you. You get better gain at the in the end game, but then if you kill them on the spot, it's just a quick, smaller reward, like straight away. Yeah, it's about acquiring assets or just killing them. So basically, one playthrough is acquire everyone, don't kill anyone, incorporate them all into your business, and the second playthrough is just literally just kill everyone and just kill them on the spot, take it, kill informants, etc., 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 and betray people basically. So yeah. But yeah, I'm not really looking forward to the second playthrough. But if I'm killing everyone, there's less effort because when you need to recruit people, you have to do a bit of setup to it. You have to wiretap phones and stuff to get information on people before you can just recruit them. You can't just go in and threaten them. For some reason, the game sort of alludes to that you've learned something on them and you may be blackmailing them. I don't know that, but you need to wiretap their phones. So there's a little bit of setup beforehand. But the kill playthrough is just basically you can just go in there, guns blazing. So it should be quicker in theory. Yeah, anyway,
is that all?
Rambled on long enough. Yes, indeed. So let's move on to the news, shall we, Vec? If you want to lead the way and tell us what's been going on.
Okay, so let's start off with something that Daz mentioned about the Vita version of Inkplosion. So the newest update, 1.01, now improves the general performance of the actual game, so it is now faster to unlock that platinum. So Daz, how do you feel about this after learning this?
I don't know. I mean, I thought so. This patch is for both versions of the game, right? The Vita and the
only for Vita.
Oh, only for Vita. Sorry, I must have misheard you. Well, that's helpful for sure because the Vita version is definitely harder, in my opinion. And yeah, I really did enjoy the Vita version just because of the controls made it a lot harder. So it's good that they've actually acknowledged that and not just. I mean, I know it's a really cheap, sort of easy platinum game anyway, but it's nice to know they're not just being like meh, whatever. You know, you get what you pay for. At least they're addressing it, so that's cool. I'm not annoyed by it. What's done is done. I've got the platinum now. The past is done. The past is the past. You know,
No.
It was frustrating at the time, and you know I was really getting annoyed with it, but it's cool.
It reminds
I'm glad
me.
people can have an easier time.
It reminds me about those stories about when people got the drinking trophy for Watch Dogs 1 pre-patch and then post-patch.
Oh god.
Exactly. Like
there's so many people livid from the people who got it pre-patch, and then the post-patch came out, and they were like, "Oh, you motherfuckers!" They were so mad because it's so much easier to get it now.
Exactly. Like I did it post-patch, so
because I was one of those pre-patchers, so I understand the struggle.
So Daz, now you can finally say you're a pre-patcher.
I
Anyways,
was so mad at everyone because everyone's just like, "Oh, the drinking game's not that hard." It's like, of course it's not, because you got a post-patch.
anyways,
I was livid.
No worries, I understand. Okay, so let's move on to the next story, which is Sora. You might like this news. This came out not too long ago. So you remember that the Kingdom Hearts 3 got a press demo that showed a lot of the actual areas that are going to be in Kingdom Hearts 3. Plus the new characters and stuff with the screenshots. So, in an interview, apparently Nomura and his team are planning to announce the release date early next month.
Yes.
So, according to this article, Square Enix is making their final last-minute adjustments and polish to the game for a worldwide release, and they're pretty firm on a certain date, but they hope to release it next month. So, basically, we're probably going to get it either in E3 next month or during the 2018 Kingdom Hearts Orchestra Tour, which debuted the Kingdom Hearts trailer during the tour last year. So basically, we'll probably see it either in one of those events. So, Sora, you're the bigger Kingdom Hearts fan here. What do you think about this?
Oh, I'm so excited, man. God, when I watched that Kingdom Hearts 3 premiere and I saw the gameplay and I saw how the cutscenes were going to look in the new game, oh, it was amazing. And then right after the premiere, they were like, "Oh yeah, more news to come early next month, including the release date of the game." And I was like, "Ah!" And I was like, "Okay, well, when are you going to show it? Is it going to be the orchestra, or are you going to do it at E3? I feel like you need to show it at E3.
Exactly.
Honestly, because you need to get the biggest audience. I understand if you want to do you can still do something at the orchestra. You can maybe throw a small trailer in there. But I feel like if you need to show off the release date for a game, it has to be done at E3 because that's where you're gonna get your most mileage out of the game.
Exactly. And you'll actually, if it's gonna be they say they're polishing the game, so are you certain that it's gonna release later this year?
So I was talking actually with Punish on Twitter over what happened during the Kingdom Hearts 3 premiere and everything, and I was talking to him about it. We both kind of decided that if the Square Enix was going to release this game this year, it would have to be around holiday times.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking a mid to late November release date.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like that gives time for Call of Duty and Battlefield to have their thing and, be over and done with. And then it gets time for Square Enix to do a major press release just get all the information out and get it time for November. I feel like November would be the premier month to do it on.
Exactly. Like, I feel the same because you have to find like that sweet spot that it doesn't feel like it's gonna be in the middle between two like big games. Otherwise, that's not gonna have the biggest audience. So, thank you, Nick. Call of Duty and Battlefield are gonna be October, and apparently Red Dead Redemption 2 will be on early November. So, yeah.
That's why I say mid to late November would be the premier time because you have Call of Duty out of the way, Red Dead's out of the way, all the big titles are in October and early November. So just put it out mid to late.
Yeah. And it fits the theme because Kingdom Hearts has always been like this festive game. I don't know about you, but I always feel festive when I play this game.
Yeah. God, I feel like a child when I play Kingdom Hearts. I feel like I'm taken back to my youth.
Exactly. That's how I feel when I play that game. So it's like
that's why Kingdom Hearts is like my favorite series of all time because it makes me feel like a child and I have childlike wonder sprung back into life for me.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Like going back in those old cartoons in Kingdom Hearts 2, or going around in like what was it called? The Tron Legacy levels in the 3D drop distance. To like the what was that Aladdin level in Recoded, and it's like, wow, you feel like this, like, wow, oh, remember this movie that came out years ago? It's like you can now play at that level. It's like, man, that's great. And I feel like this is gonna be the same with Kingdom Hearts 3.
Well, that was the thing, because with the premiere in itself, they held that event just so like diehard fans could play it and give their opinion about the game.
Mm-hmm.
Because Square Enix released a Twitter like 3 days after the premiere saying, "Thanks for all the feedback. We're making adjustments now to the game."
Mm.
And I felt that was awesome because, God, if this game is not good,
no.
I'm gonna be angry.
Anyways, let's kind of move on to the next one. I don't want to keep talking. I love to talk more about Kingdom Hearts, but maybe much later when you can.
Yeah.
So let's move on to another news piece. So, remember how Nintendo released like the NES and SNES Classic? That system where you can play like 30 games in like one package that costs like $50, $60, around that price tag, and then it's like scaled up because scalpers were around buying it. So then Sony is considering making an old school PlayStation Classic. So according to this, there was like an interview about Mantan Web that said that the company is digging up past assets for various ways to incorporate them. And one of them that we're theorizing especially is like a PlayStation Classic, and that sounded interesting, basically because it sounds like something that they will do to cash in to like this whole mini craze of having like mini versions of consoles that exist already. And it says that they're having discussions on what ways can they incorporate them. They're looking into some classics, of course, with Spyro, Crash. They're looking into the Jak and Daxter and the Twisted Metal series for some reason. So all we have to do is like see what they do with them, because PlayStation has like a big library of games on PS1, and none of them like exceed more than what, like a gig. So it is possible to make like a PlayStation Classic, but I have no idea how they're going to incorporate it. But I want to know what you guys think and what we can theorize what games could be in that like system itself.
Well, first off, I just put my cards on the table and say I wouldn't be interested in it, because if I wanted to play PS1 classics, I have a Vita, and I very rarely do, so I'm not really interested in it. I also still have my PS1 games, my favourite PS1 games, physically on disc, and I have a PS2 to play them on if I wanted to, but I don't. And thirdly, if you want a little console to play PS1 games on, get yourself a Vita TV, is what I say, because you can download classic games onto that and play it on the television. So
Exactly.
I think it is the trend, but I think this is just a rumor. I'd be surprised if Sony did it. for sure. But no, I wouldn't be interested, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm along the same lines as guys. I don't think this is something that's really needed for PlayStation. Because I mean, most of the PS1 games, most of the PS1 classics, I should say, however, are already on PS4, PS3, and everything. I don't really think a whole new console to buy and everything to play those games is really needed.
No.
I mean, with Nintendo, like when they did their mini consoles, getting those games isn't as readily available or even as cheap, because even with like Virtual Console, they usually like charge quite a little bit more than what some people would think those games are worth today. With some of the PS1 classics, they're really cheap on PSN, and sometimes they come up in sales, for example, whenever they have especially on Vita, when there's Vita sales, they usually chuck a whole bunch of PS1 games in. Not all the time, but sometimes they have like for example, a Best of Japan sort of one, and they'll have like all the classic Resident Evil games in the Best of Japan sale. They did that last month. So on the Vita, you could get like Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, for example, pretty cheap, like the PS1 classics on Vita, which you can buy and play on if you still have a PS3, play it on PS Vita, or on a PlayStation Vita TV. So they're definitely easier to get hold of. It's not like a bunch of like, for example, let's say you put Crash 1 to 3 and Spyro and Metal Gear Solid on like a little plastic PlayStation looking thing as a HDMI in the back. And what would they charge for that? Like £50, £60, £70, whatever they charge for like a NES or SNES Mini.
Yeah.
But you could probably find a PlayStation Vita TV for even cheaper than that, and then just buy the games on PSN and download it onto it. Like you said, Vec, the game file sizes of some of the biggest PlayStation PS1 classics, I think off the top of my head, when I used to download them on my PS3 back in the day, I think the biggest one you were looking at was like maybe like what was the capacity of a CD back in the day? It was like
a gig. Maybe?
No, it was less than that.
No, it was less. It was like
512. 512.
It was in the megabytes. It was definitely just.
Yeah, it was like it was like 500 to 700, somewhere around there. Because I remember having like blank CDs to burn on my old PC, and it was like 700 megabyte blank CDs, like back in the day. So I think around the 700 mark per CD, I think was like the maximum. So games, unless they had 2 discs, would really be like under a gigabyte, you know, single disc games. So yeah, like, I don't know. I think they already tried a mini console with the Vita TV and it failed, so I don't think they'll try it again, even with the novelty of it being a classic or like a retro style console that looks like a little PlayStation 1. I just don't think they'll bother with it.
Yeah,
unless they reskin a Vita TV and put the guts of a Vita TV in a little plastic PlayStation. But like I said, it won't sell because they tried it already.
Oh, I found...
Go ahead, Beck.
Oh, I found the specifications, but go ahead, Sora, and I'll say it later.
I was just going to say, from a business perspective, I just don't see this making sense at all. I mean, I just feel like it would be a waste of assets to just burn and only have like a few thousand being sold. I don't even know about that. I personally would not even be interested in buying one.
Okay.
I just feel like it's a waste of assets.
Yeah. So here we are. The size disk of the PS1 is around 650 megabytes per game. It is around 150 on average on the PSN store, and most of them like have the maximum at least 350 megabytes each. So that tells you like it's less than a gig to play Final Fantasy VII. So that says a lot. So yeah, it's interesting having this topic of discussion for PlayStation Classics. But no, I personally think, like, I'm agreeing with you guys. I don't think this is just going to be worth it, because maybe unless you're actually not thinking about it porting it on PS4, a PlayStation Classic, unless you don't have like a PS3 or anything, it might sound like a good deal, but it's much cheaper as a resource to just buy the games that you want on the PSN store, or find some copies of PlayStation games that are so small.
If they bought the ability to play PS1 games, digital PS1 games and PSN on PlayStation 4 tomorrow, chances are I probably wouldn't play them. If they had trophies, yes, I would. but they don't. So I'm not really interested, to be honest.
That's gonna be interesting. Someone asked about how many gigs is Final Fantasy VII on PS4, not the remake. Of course not, but the actual game itself. I'm gonna look it up. So while I look this up,
it's 4.28 gigs. I was looking it up while y'all were talking.
Oh, thank you. Oh,
it's 4.28 gigs on PS4.
That's interesting. So
that's really interesting, actually.
So thank you, Sora. So let's move on to another story that we have is like Battlefield 5. So Battlefield 5 was shown in the trailer that had like a bunch of controversy because of some peculiar armless gal that's going to be in the cover of the game. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that Battlefield 5 won't have a premium pass and all of the DLC will be free. Like, what the heck? And it was confirmed in like the actual stream itself. So, what's going on? What's going on? EA's giving stuff for free now?
I feel like they're just catching up a lot of major backlash from their previous games. So maybe we should just have maybe one game where we don't charge people for something.
I agree with Sora on this. This is definitely Goodwill rather than, you know, after like the whole thing with Star Wars and all of that. This is definitely EA trying to like tidy up their image, so to speak. I mean, like they've been doing with these EA originals where they make no profit off of these indie games. Again, trying to come across as a nice company, you know. Because after being voted like the worst company to work for like a few years in a row, like not recently, but it was a few years ago, wasn't it? It was like 2 years in a row they were voted like the worst company to work for, or something along those lines. And just all the backlash they're constantly getting, and we just having to say, just writing EA on Twitter will just bring in everyone like giving a long sigh about EA games and just their practices in regards to like microtransactions and loot boxes, etc. So I definitely think this is a Goodwill thing, and if there wasn't a backlash, for example, back on Star Wars, chances are this game probably would have had all the season passes and loot crates and boxes in it just the same. You know, and
go ahead.
I was just going to say, but I'm not interested in this game at all, so I don't really have anything else to say on it, to be honest.
I guarantee you, the next game will have, you know, loot boxes and all that. They just want to tidy up their name for right now.
Yeah,
that's all this is telling me right now.
They want to actually make a game for once and not a slot machine. That's impressive of them.
Because you can't bring by the director of EA, bring him to my house and tell me to my eyes that this is because you wanted to have, you know, a better experience or anything. You wanted to change your business practices or stuff like that. No. This is straight like what Dad said out of Goodwill.
Yeah, exactly. But let's move on to our last two news sections of the news stories. So the first one is Yakuza 3, 4, and 5 remasters have been announced for Japan. So, fuck you! Come on, give us the US release. Really, I want to buy Yakuza because I want to try it now. And this is incredible because you can now they've shown gameplay for Yakuza 3. And they have announced that 4 and 5 are going to be remastered as well. So this is going to be great. So people that have been hyping for Yakuza 0 and Kiwami now can actually buy these games later if they can. So
I just like how pretty much like almost the entire, I think it is the entire Yakuza series is now going to be on PS4 now.
Except Dead Souls, but that's a spin-off. Okay.
Dead Souls is Dead Souls.
Yes, exactly. So but yeah, it's gonna be like the entire Yakuza series in like the PS4. So, wow, that's gonna be incredible. And also, you know
how these Japan releases are. They're like, oh yeah, we'll release it in Japan first, and then 1 or 2 years down the line, they give it a Western release. I hope it's not the case with this, but that's usually how it pans out.
How long did Yakuza 0 and Kiwami take for getting ported localized on US?
I think Zero and Kiwami were only like 7 months apart from the Japan and US releases.
Exactly. So I could probably see them releasing them and then localizing it shortly after. So yeah. So Daz, you want to input on this, or you got nothing to say?
No, I've got nothing. I've never played the Yakuza games, and I don't have any interest in them. I hear they're good. I know a lot of people enjoy them, but they're just not on my radar.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well. So that's much about that. So let's move on to the last story, and this one I actually made the poll on the official Trophy Trust account. You can follow us on Twitter at the Trophy Trust, so you can participate maybe in some polls that we might pull up for us to participate. So, we asked on Twitter that apparently the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection and Bloodstained Curse of the Moon are not going to feature any of the platinum trophies on their trophy lists. So we asked on Twitter, would you still play and buy these games regardless of them? And we got the results already, but first, let's see what you guys think first about this.
I mean, honestly, with Street Fighter, I would definitely, even if it didn't have a platinum, because I just love Street Fighter just in general.
Mm-hmm.
Bloodstained, I've never heard of Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. Like, I don't know what that is at all.
You want me to fill some context just before?
Yeah, fill me in.
So Bloodstained is made by the creator of Castlevania. So Castlevania creator made a Kickstarter for basically a spiritual sequel called Bloodstained, and it was Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. So in that stretch goal that was met fairly easily, they included a 8-bit game that is called Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, which is a prequel type game that takes place, of course, before the events of Ritual of the Night. So it basically ties in fairly nicely, and it gives some players some incentive. And they gave away the keys not too long ago, and people have been playing it, and so far has been praised upon it. So I don't know about what you think. So
I mean, I wasn't ever really into Castlevania. I mean, I played the original Castlevania, but that was about it. I never played like modern day. So I mean, I guess I would still be kept in my way of like, if it didn't have a platinum trophy, I guess I wouldn't play it. But with Street Fighter, I would definitely play it. I would play that all the time.
Okay. What about you, Daz?
I don't have any interest in either of those games, so platinum or no platinum, it's I have nothing, no input, no interest. So I couldn't give you an answer.
Oh,
either way.
Okay. So, our results were they have like multiple answers. So we had these games are fun. Yes, I'm excited for them. No, I want a platinum, and no, I'm not interested. So, with a total of 78 votes, the highest score was that yes, these games look fun, with a total of 35%, and the least was yes, I'm excited for them. So, people have been also clamoring for they wanted a platinum with these games, so that's kind of interesting. So, let's head off down here on the replies, just real quick. Saying that Silent Bun from Silent Bun Gaming says, no platinum is no problem for me, and if you avoid these games with no platinum trophies, you're probably missing out on some great experiences. Also adding up is Mr. Nolly, which was, I think it was a previous guest in last week's episode, says that Street Fighter 2 was a huge part of my childhood growing up. So I will be buying the 30th Anniversary Collection anyways. My sister and I are both excited to play our nostalgic memories on PS4. And last but not least, Oscar from King Saiyan C says, I would absolutely still buy this game regardless. So, there we go. That's our first kind of introducing more people inside these actual news sections. So, what do you guys think about the response?
Well, I mean, when games come down to it, it is about enjoying a game, regardless of trophies, isn't it? I mean, we're trophy hunters, and we like to focus on the trophies, but let's say trophies never existed, we'd still be playing these games anyway. We've just found a particular facet of video games that we concentrate more on, you know?
Exactly.
There's people who are out there who don't care about trophies at all, and they have maybe, I don't know, even more fun and less stressful times than we do, because we really push ourselves to get those shitty trophies, don't we, sometimes? And it's obviously more stressful than it's worth sometimes, but we just push ourselves to do it. But some people just, like I used to play games before trophies were around, just used to have fun and not really push myself too hard on it and just have a casual time. But, you know, my kind of gaming tastes changed as I grew, and I got into trophies, and now I push myself to play the games on the hardest modes and do all the challenges and whatnot. But some people still just want that casual kind of like, just approach a game, play a couple of hours a day or when they can, and that's good for them. That's all they want.
Yeah. Sorry, you want to chime in just before we leave the news section?
I mean, I agree with Daz on most points and everything. I play games, you know, like every other person played games before, you know, trophies and achievements and, you know, Steam achievements were made readily available for everyone. I played games just for fun. Too. It's like Daz said, I found a certain facet for games now. I like to hunt trophies. That's what I like to do gaming-wise now. Some people like to just stay the course and, you know, they just like to play games for fun and everything. There's absolutely nothing wrong for it. It's just some people, like myself, like Daz, like you, Vec, we have a certain facet now. We like hunting trophies.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, that we've actually run through quite long on the news section. There's other stuff we can discuss, but we will save that to next week. There's a few other stories that happened this week, but we need to push on. So we are going to move on to our Tricky Trophy segment, where we look through our trophy collections at some of the most challenging, rage-inducing gameplay, or just plain boredom and grinding we've had to endure for a single trophy. Now, guys, because we've run a little bit long, we're going to try and push this through nice and efficiently. So I tell you what, I will go first. And the Tricky Trophy I have got set up here, if I can find the tab, is from Ratchet & Clank 3, Up Your Arsenal. The PS3 version, of course. This trophy, I've actually spoken about this before, not the trophy, but the actual gameplay. I think Beck will remember this.
Yep.
This trophy is called Strive for Arcade Perfection.
Oh.
Get all the Cork tokens, 100% on all vid comics. Now, in Ratchet & Clank 3, you collect basically these little video game levels that you can play back in your home base, home ship, and it's like they're side scrollers where you play as Captain Cork and you have to go through the level, and basically it's a side scroller, kind of like a play on a retro side scrolling game. It's a game within a game, you know. I've always spoken about mini games in games before and how they're often harder than the actual game itself. In this particular trophy, it requires you to play all of the Captain Cork arcade games. I think there's 5 of them altogether.
Yeah.
It's 5 or 6. There's quite a few of them. I think there's 5. Yeah, there is 5. Just checked. Basically, this, as you go through, it's just like a classic side-scroller platformer. There's tokens to collect, like, you know, like Mario has coins, Sonic has rings, etc., etc. These are like Cork tokens. But what you have to do is you have to collect all of them in the level, and you have to do it in one go. You can't, you know, collect half and then come back or restart the level and collect the rest. You have to do it in one go without dying, as in like without having the level game over and start from the beginning. And yeah, it's just a real pain in the ass, to be honest, because some of the levels are really tricky to do. It's not a great little mini game. The platforming's not great in it. I think some level has like lava that rises up in it, like just this kind of standard side-scrolling kind of like level design, really, game within a game. And yeah, I didn't enjoy it. Really. It isn't the worst trophy I've done, definitely not, but it just felt like we've discussed before with mini games. Sometimes they just feel pointless, like they just feel needless, like it's needless difficulty just thrown in because you have to learn new game mechanics that are not related to the actual main game. It's just like, here's a mini game, here's how you play it. It can be like the arcade games in Bully, or like My Blaster Runs Hot in the other Ratchet & Clank game, or this here, where you just have to quickly learn a game on the spot.
Yeah.
And that steep learning curve is often a cause for frustration because you're just thrown in at the deep end and you have to learn these like new controls that only appear in this one instance in the game. And yeah, that all contributes to how frustrating this trophy is. But again, like I said, it's not the worst one, but it just stands out in that game. That's basically like, other than like grinding up the weapons in this game, this is the only other real kind of problem. There's a few like no damage segments in the rest of the game, but compared to this, they're fine. In fact, do you have anything just to contribute to this?
Yeah, I just gotta say, like, the holovids, the Quark episodes, you just have to collect at least 100 Quark tokens, and some of them are missable. For example, there's some points of no return that you can't just easily go back because, like, a certain set piece, like, for example, there's one point there you're in Metropolis, and there's like a platform you have to jump to collect the Quark tokens. Otherwise, if you miss it, you have to restart the whole level again because you can't use the platform again to go back to it because you're forced to go to the other side. So those points of no return, you basically have to restart. And that's one of the problems I had when I got that trophy back in the day. But it's just like, it was only like one level in Metropolis, and some of them are pretty hidden. But if you look at the guide and see or predict looking for them, you might actually have a bit of time. But it's
annoying. It's an annoying trophy, to say the least. Okay, well, that's me done. Sora, what's your tricky trophy?
Oh, okay, good. I'm glad I'm actually going next to point of Daz's theme of a game within a game. So,
cool.
My tricky trophy comes from Final Fantasy 13-2. So, with this, my trophy is called Serendipitous. So, in Final Fantasy 13-2, you are a kind of a time traveler, and you go through all these different time periods. One of the time periods that you go through is basically a casino. Mm-hmm. And you go through this casino, and basically the trophy is you need to amass 10,000 casino tokens. You can do it through however many means. There's plenty of games that you can play throughout the time period that you're in, such as chocobo racing, slot machines, blackjack, dice throws, anything like that you can use to amass your coins. All those other means that I said, like the chocobo racing, card playing, they take up way too much time. Like, if you were to use those methods to get your 10,000 coins, it would probably take 5 hours of just doing that one activity. So, the way I did it was to go through slot machines. Yeah. However, slot machines are slot machines. And luck is very much based on it. But you do have that chance of getting a jackpot and getting all those coins. But with that said, it is slot machines. But basically, the reason why this trophy is so bullshit or anything is because I decided to go with the slot machine route. There is a certain section in the game where if you do hit a jackpot, you have a chance of doubling it or even tripling the jackpot price. But if you land on one of the monster enemies that appear in the game in one of the slot rows, everything that you've amassed, your casino coins, everything that you've amassed gets dwindled down to 0, and then you have to rebuy everything again. You have to amass a certain amount of casino tokens again. You have to buy them using your actual money to get casino chips. And it's bullshit because you could be having all this luck and everything. You're getting close to that 10,000, and then you hit another jackpot, and you're like, oh, I'm finally about to get the trophy. It's finally about to be here and everything. And then you hit that, and I've had that happen to me where I've just hit those monster enemies and it sent me down straight to 0.
And you're like, crushed.
Devastating.
It crushed me because I was like, I'm so close, and I was already an hour and a half in slot machines in a Final Fantasy game. It's not the best use of my time.
You basically have to like know when to quit, like stop. Otherwise, it just does that to you.
That's a lesson for real life gambling right there.
Exactly.
Know your limits. Know your limits.
Learn when you don't think that you're lucky because of it. The dealer's just having pity on you.
Know when to hold them and when to fold them.
Exactly.
All right, Vec, that leaves you. What's your tricky trophy?
So I said last thing before I moved on to Jack 2 is that I was playing Hadin Time, and one of the trophies is One Punch! And I hope someone gets that reference. So basically, this gold trophy requires you to do a specific action. So in the game, you collect these pins that you can put on your hat, and it gives you certain abilities that makes the game easier for you. Like some recharges go faster, like the currency attracts to you. You can use like the umbrella for grappling, certain amount, but there's only 2 of them that do negative things to yourself. And some of these pins you have to collect them. One of them is called the one-hit hero badge, and you have to collect this badge for this trophy because you need at least 6 timepieces and 600 of the currency, which is pawns. And you have to fight a boss with that equipped. The one-hit hero badge is basically your health goes from 4 to 1, and you have to beat the boss without getting hit while having that equipped throughout the whole thing. And that's from starting that boss to the ending. You cannot equip it midway and then beat the boss. You have to have it equipped throughout. Otherwise, the trophy gets nulled. Now, this would be easy, except the bosses take large amounts of time to beat, except for one, and that is the boss in Subcom Forest, which you have to beat a giant toilet, which is called the Toilet of Doom. And in this toilet, it does like a certain pattern that is easy to predict because it doesn't have like a large moveset and it's like a mini boss, but it still counts for the trophy. And with it, you can actually like predict which is gonna do, what's gonna happen, and it's much easier to grab on and use the actual items to defeat the actual toilet and use the umbrella to finish him off. But the problem is that even if that's the easiest boss, that doesn't mean jack shit because the hit boxes of that game are basically large enough so you can get hit, and even though you reacted fast enough to jump, you might get hit by one of the shockwave attacks, or might have been touching the goop in the middle of the area, or you might have touched one of the bubbles around. It's very difficult, but you can also do it on other bosses, although I found this one to be easier. Of course, Unknown says he used it on the mod boss. Some people have used it on the Spectre, on the last final boss on the Subcom Forest. Personally, I found the toilet boss much easier because of the health is much easier to manage, and it's much more predictable to use like what he's gonna do. So yeah, if you're gonna do this is like the hardest one in the game, but otherwise the game is easy. You just have to collect everything and do like this miscellaneous trophies, including this one, which is not that hard, but it brings a big anecdote when it says like you have to use this one badge. You're never gonna use the entire game in order to do this. So
alrighty then, so that rounds off all of our tricky trophies. So guys, I think what we'll do is we'll just do our sign-offs and then that'll be it. So
yes,
guys, let's all talk about where we can find each other. So Sora, where are you at?
Twitter.com/SaratsuG. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Okay, Vec?
and you can find me on twitter.com/dvectronic. What about you?
You can find me on Twitter at the Desil. You don't have to do the full address. You can just chuck it in the search bar.
Come on.
So, guys, thank you for listening. As always, you can find our episodes on our YouTube channel, The Trophy Trust. Please support us there by subscribing for future episodes. You can also find updates on our Twitter at The Trophy Trust. And as Vec said earlier in the episode, we're now doing polls and trying to engage a little more. So check it out and get involved. And you can have your tweets read out on the show if you participate in the polls and leave a reply. In the profile, of course, you can find the link to our Discord server, which this podcast is recorded through, and people take part in, and people comment along while we're recording live. So if you're not already part of the ever-growing community we've got here, please come along and join. We're a very friendly community, and we love inviting in new trophy hunters. It's always great to see new faces in the server, so to speak. If you enjoy the show, why not consider supporting us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month? We are strictly non-profit, but we need to pay those hosting costs to keep all our episodes online and available to you. Guys, thank you for listening. This has been the Trophy Trust, and keep on trophy hunting. Goodbye.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye.